my religion has influenced three things: my spirituality, my consciousness to humanity, and my development as a person. To me, that's somebody that was reading the Quran, because you can only come up with a question like that if you understand that the flesh that we envelop, or that this body that our soul keeps, is limited. Because every night our soul leaves this particular edifice. Every single night our soul leaves this edifice. So now, if that's the case, which it is, and Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran that sleep is the twin brother of death. So while you are sleeping in your bed, you are actually literally dead, with no consciousness until Allah gives it back to you and you dream. And it's by Allah Ta'ala's permission that you remember your dream. So if our consciousness or our spirituality is not developing in a point where we can actually manifest it in our day-to-day life, we are living as Muslims with no direction, and we are seeking nothing but life. But we are not seeking life after death, in which we are commanded to do. In conclusion, one of the things that my brother Jamal said, Sidi Jamal said last week, he was speaking about the unity of the Ikhwan, and that is a prerequisite for us to get to Jannah, right? So what it got me to thinking was, the Prophet ﷺ said that if it's 3 of you traveling, that you should have an emir, right? That there should be an emir. Now think about this in conclusion. He also spoke about the differences that, because we are ethnically different, and we come from different tribes, that Allah Ta'ala says that He made us into different tribes and nations so that we may get to know each other and not despise each other. Now, the diversity of Islam is by the design of Allah Ta'ala. The diversity and the widespread of Islam is by the design of Allah Ta'ala. Now, if we are under the mind frame that there will be one Khalifa for the whole Muslim Ummah, you are doing a disservice to yourself. The greatest thing that Allah Ta'ala has created within the Khalifaship after Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was Ashura. Majlis Ashura. Majlis basically means in Arabic, and you scholars of Arabic can correct me if I'm wrong, it means to sit. It literally means to sit. Ashura means to speak to each other. Come reasoning. Like our Jamaican brother, I say, we have to reason with each other, right? So we have to reason. So we have to sit, because when you are sitting, you are able to listen. You ever thought why in Islam that you actually sit on the floor instead of chairs? Food for thought. Each ethnic group, or each part, or each city can have a majlis, ashura. And with that majlis, you have an emir. And you can spread that out. Like California is spread from north, middle, central, and south. Why you can't have local, regional, and statewide ashura? You see, unity is based on collective thinking, not collective thought, in the process of no action without it. Thinking brings upon an action. Thought brings upon stagnation. Yeah, I thought about it, but I ain't do nothing about it. When you're really thinking about something really hard, eventually you're going to move towards it. Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, وَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْأَكْبَرُ. Well, the best of thought is the remembrance of Allah. So, if the remembrance of Allah is utmost, if the striving towards Allah is utmost, if the pleasing of Allah Ta'ala is utmost. If getting back to Jannah is utmost in showing gratitude or gratification that Allah Ta'ala first have made us Muslim, 2, that He called us to this, 3, that we have a salvation in following the example of the Prophet ﷺ, and that we can all get home, then we will always have majlis, ashura, and we will always have unity. But if your unity or anything of your majlis or your coming together as a ummah or even a masjid is based on anything different, even with your individual selves, those of us that are married, we make ashura, well, some of us make ashura with our families all the time because it is the sunnah of the Prophet. And we do it without actually realizing what we're doing. Because the effort to bring Islam into our practical life is evident, and that's what we want. So may Allah Ta'ala forgive us for our shortcomings and our sins, have mercy on our souls in this life and in the hereafter. May Allah Ta'ala give victory to the ummah of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. May Allah Ta'ala protect the ummah of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. May Allah Ta'ala forgive the ummah of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. May Allah Ta'ala keep us in heart of each other, in remembrance of Allah and in remembrance of the Holy Last Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. أستغفر الله. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله وعليكم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. My brothers in the back, I ask you to move up and tighten the ranks, inshallah ta'ala. Dear Ikhwan, I want to speak about something that's, I don't believe personally that is controversial, but mashallah, it's me. You can differ, but I don't think that it's a point that should just get us at odds with each other. Okay? And what I'm speaking about is the Mawlid. You know, there was a time, because of those of you that don't know, I was born Muslim in this country. So there was a time in my youth that the Mawlid was celebrated. And then we went through a time where the Mawlid, everybody was saying bid'ah. That's a bid'ah. It's bid'ah. That's a famous word, bid'ah. Bid'ah. Now, bid'ah means innovation. You know something? The Prophet ﷺ didn't have nylon carpet in his masjid either. Is this a good bid'ah or bad bid'ah? The Prophet ﷺ didn't sleep on feather pillows. Is that a good bid'ah or a bad bid'ah because we got feathers in our pillows or we got foam pillows? You know, if you need an alarm clock to wake you up for Fajr, that's a bid'ah. Literally, because there was no alarm clocks in the time of Rasulullah ﷺ. We have to be careful about what we call bid'ah. Right? Okay. So let's look at this word, Mawlid. Now, myself, I'm asking all of the Arabic scholars, Abdullah, to correct me if I'm wrong. But from my studies, the word Mawlid is a verbal noun, which indicates the birth, a birth. And it's also a noun of time or place. So when you're saying the Mawlid, you are saying the place, the physical place where the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born and the time where he was born. Most Muslims celebrated on the 12th of Rabi al-Awwal, right? Now, this Mawlid, or this word, also has Isma Makan, which signifies the time. Mustab signifies the birth. Now, they say that this didn't take place during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. True, it came upon in the 7th century. Now, after the death of Rasulullah ﷺ, if you're a student of history, you will come across in the seerah of Rasulullah that there was exemplifers. Exemplifers are people that studied the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and they was constantly in the mix of people. You know, we don't have scholars walking around now. That's our fault too, but that's another subject. We don't have scholars walking around. We can't go over here and just, you know, our criterion of a scholar is someone that keeps your attention. That's our criterion of a scholar. He can be speaking about something that you totally disagree with, but he got your attention, but he's scholarly. So we don't have scholars. So in the 7th century, if you follow the seerah of Rasulullah ﷺ, or the time frame of the Muslims after the Prophet ﷺ, you have scholars everywhere. And if you read back in the time of the 7th, 8th, 9th century, the Mawlid was nothing big. It was no big thing to do. Remember, I just quantified this, so this is homework. Please come back and tell me if I'm wrong. The word Mawlid is a verbal noun, right? Which indicates the birth. The noun within the word Mawlid represents time and place. Now we can argue all day long about the time and the place of the Prophet ﷺ. We can even argue the exact day if you want to. No problem. But you know, when you go back in history, what the Muslims used to do, celebrating the birth of the Prophet ﷺ, they used to come, and then the scholars of that time would talk about his qualities, his shahma'il, his qualities, the qualities of the Prophet ﷺ, and they would read or go over his seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. They would go over his hadiths. They would do daroods. They would send salawats on the Prophet ﷺ. And it would be a celebration. Now we come to modern day because we got Sheikh Google, Sheikh Bing, what's that other one? Yahoo, Sheikh Yahoo. We argue amongst ourselves about Muslims actually getting together, thanking Allah Ta'ala for the birth of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now think about that. Now Allah Ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that we, all of us, have not even tasted the sweetness of Iman if we do not love the Prophet ﷺ more than any other human being. The sweetness, not that we got to Iman, just the sweetness of it. What is the sweetness of Iman? Muhammad ﷺ. That is the sweetness of Iman. And what makes it palatable, what makes us swallow it, is Allah and His Kitab, the Quran. Now, I mention this because to this day, before Sheikh Google and Sheikh Bing and Sheikh Yahoo, the Muslims didn't have the opportunity to argue like we do. We bring our arguments on Facebook, Snapchat, the iPhone for Iblis. We bring all of our arguments for our enemies to see, and we talk about unity. We talk about, yeah, this is one ummah. No. You see, because if you can find an argument in actually thanking Allah Ta'ala for the birth of Muhammad Mustafa Abdullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we got a serious problem. It's no big thing. If your heart does not feel it, subhanAllah, stay away from it. But how many bayans that we have went to, how many masjids that we went to, and we had an imam or khatib or scholar speaking to us about something that we disagreed upon, and we sat there and we listened. The sad thing about it is that those of us that don't know or don't celebrate the Mawlid, or even recognize, I shouldn't even celebrate, I shouldn't say celebrate, recognize the Mawlid of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we won't even go to a masjid and see what it's about. We won't even go see what it's about. Because you have to ask yourself, if I stood up here and I did a khutbah, and I reminded you of the qualities of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, if I spoke about the seerah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, if I reminded you of some of the Hasan Sahih of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, am I not celebrating or quantifying or saying shukr Allah for bringing us Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? See, this is where the Muslims get off at. If it wasn't for the light of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, there would not be even Islam. There would be no Muslims. So you may say, well, brother man, why we got to celebrate it on one? That's just like what the Christians doing with Jesus. A'udhu billahi. Alayhi salatu wasalam. The difference is that the Prophet Isa, they claim he was Ibn Allah. Astaghfirullah. No Muslim would ever tell you that Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has any part of the divinity. One. Two, Rabi al-Awwal, the 12th, the 13th, the 17th, the 21st, whatever day you want to do, right? It shifts. So this month, it's in December. Next year, it'll probably be in October. That's the second difference. They say that Nabi Isa, alayhi salatu salam, was born on December 25th. It never changes. Second difference. Third difference is that Nabi Isa, alayhi salatu salam, said, why do you attribute things to me that I said not? And isn't that the same thing that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said? I don't want you to desecrate me as you did my brother Isa, alayhi salatu salam, where they said he was Ibn Allah. Astaghfirullah. So, dear beloved Muslims, if you really want unity amongst yourself, you have to first become tolerant to each other. And you have to be tolerant of your differences. Nobody is claiming that the Mawlid is something that you have to practice. Nobody is saying that you have to go to these bayans and you have to sit there and listen. But if a group of Muslims want to do that, and they are just reminding each other of the greatness of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, then you should be a part of that. And I'll conclude with this. In the Battle of Uhud, and you can go back and read this. In the Battle of Uhud, when the Quraysh was coming towards the Muslims, because first the Muslims charged them, and then, brothers off the mountain, they wanted the booty, right? So they went down, they wanted to grab. So they left the backside of the Muslims open. So at that particular time, Khalid bin Walid was a part of the Quraysh, so he led that charge. When they thought that the Prophet ﷺ was dead, there were women around when he fell, and this is for the chauvinists. There were women holding swords, bows and arrows, protecting Rasulullah ﷺ, and then there was a line of men in front of the women. And those brothers would jump. When the arrows was being shot, they would jump up and down. So the arrows would hit them instead of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Now you tell me, is that the love that we supposed to have for the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? And then you want to tell me that people that remind each other of these stories are wrong? A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. dear beloved Muslims, these little things are the things that separate us. Instead of trying to understand them, we get one line of information from Sheikh Google, from Sheikh Desert, somewhere in Saudi somewhere, that tell us that it's haram, and then boom, then we want